All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me begin just by saying thank you so much for this time to be able to share um, with Bold New Democracy. Um, the I have had the opportunity once before to do. It was an opening reflection. Um, Richard Asimus was uh, attended somewhere that I spoke once and became was a friend and a supporter up until the pandemic hit and kind of had us go a little bit of our separate ways. But it was through him that I got a chance to be familiar with Bold New Democracy. And so
Hmm.
um, I have been a fan of your work and appreciate the ways in which you show up, the mission that you all have undertaken. And so um, the very glad to be able to be here and be with you. I am going to share my screen so that you can see. Um, all right. Um,
Got your PowerPoint. Yeah.
all right. There we go. Now we can see that, and I can still see you. Perfect. Um, so what I want to talk about today, as the flyer said, is issue 24, this affordable housing ballot initiative, which has a vision of creating a future where all of us can create a vibrant, thriving communities with access to healthcare, quality schools, and the freedom to make our own best lives for ourselves and for our families. Um, the What I would like to do is to have this be a bit interactive, and so there are a couple of questions I want to ask just to kind of help set the frame for this. Um, the There we go. So as we talk about the need that we have for housing, um, the if you had to guess what percentage of Cincinnatians um, are cannot afford their current housing cost, what would your guess be?
Wow.
Maybe 30%.
30% is a great guess. Um, it is one in three. One
Ooh.
in three Cincinnatians are currently paying more for their housing than what they can
Wow.
afford to pay. And does anybody know what the standard for measuring affordability is? What percentage of your income is supposed to go toward housing?
A
It's just a
quarter,
little
is it?
bit more than a quarter. It's just a
Yeah.
little bit more than that. It's 30%. And
30%.
Okay.
so if your housing cost, and this is supposed to include rent and utilities or your mortgage and utilities, if your housing costs are 30% or less of your income, then you are living within your means. If it's more than 30%, then you have a housing cost burden. You're paying more than what you should be paying in terms of housing. So one
Mm.
in three Cincinnatians are currently paying more than 30% of their income toward housing. Um, the um, and with many paying up to 50% of their income is going to keep them housed. Um, we are already 28,000 units short of housing that's affordable to people at the lowest incomes And so if you take the current shortage plus the people who are overpaying for their housing, we have a present crisis that is destined to explode in the next several years in an even bigger crisis. In addition to that, Cincinnati had the highest rental rate increase of any city in the nation last year. And it has had one of the highest over the last 3 years. And so at the time of the 2020 census, the median rent was $760 a month. Now, the median asking price for rent in Cincinnati is $1,815 a month.
Oh my goodness.
And I've asked this everywhere I've talked about this, and I have yet to find anybody. So you all may be the first. Is there anybody you know whose salary has increased since 2020 by more than double, who has more than doubled their salary in the last 3 years?
I sure don't.
So if our salaries aren't doubling, but the cost of rent is, the affordability of the city is becoming is creating a crisis. In 2020, Cincinnati was one of the most affordable cities in the country. It's one of the things that people loved about coming to Cincinnati, that you could afford to live here and afford to raise your family. And it is quickly becoming out of reach for many, many people. This is a racial justice issue. Black families are the hardest hit. The of the people who are paying more than 50% of their income on housing, people who are making $30,000 a year or less of income, Black families represent 57%, or 57% of Black families rather are in that target range, which is more than half of Black families are paying 50% or more of their income for housing. And then incomes just aren't keeping up. So here are the the top 5 jobs in the city: registered nurse, retail salesperson, laborer, food service worker, and customer service representative. And you can see the median income for those jobs. And none of them can afford to rent a 2-bedroom in the city. The registered nurse can, but doesn't meet the requirement to be able to afford a house with a mortgage. And so for the people who work in the city, the people who are employed here, the city is not affordable for them. And then we've seen a number of ways in which federal money just isn't keeping up. There's less money coming down from the federal government. I was in a presentation with the Cincinnati Development Fund, and they were talking about the challenges they're having. And one of the challenges they're having is that federal money isn't keeping up with the rise in inflation. And so there's a greater share of the cost for building affordable housing that's being passed down to cities, and cities aren't having a place to go to find the money. And so Cincinnati Development Fund said what we need is a sustainable revenue source to be able to, if we're going to do what this city wants us to do, we need a sustainable revenue source for the money. And we don't have it right now.
Can we get a couple of questions then
Yes, please, please interrupt me.
Yeah.
Please
Okay.
feel free to interrupt me with questions. Absolutely.
Yeah. Lucy, do you want to go ahead and ask yours here?
I just had a question about the 1,800 plus median rental. What
Mm-hmm.
size? How many bedrooms was that for?
That's the median rent for that's a median asking price right now for a 2-bedroom, I believe.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay. Was there any others here real quick? I had a question about what would you attribute the change in affordability to in the last few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a couple of things that are happening that are creating this crisis. One is um, there are Cincinnati is following a trend that's been happening in other cities where there are out of state and in a lot of cases out of country developers who are buying available property and trying to buy it for less than market value so that they can flip it and make money off of it or enter it into the short-term rental market, the Airbnb market. And so just today, probably about 90 minutes ago, I received a call from somebody, and I get this call every 5 to 7 days. I get a call from somebody asking me if I'm going to sell my home. My wife and I just bought our home. We have no interest in selling or moving, and have never signed up for anything or done anything to indicate that we are interested in selling in or moving. But because our property values are beginning to rise and they're building higher, they're building more luxury homes near us, people are seeing it as an opportunity to try to buy properties like mine and then be able to make a couple of cosmetic changes, flip it, and charge, 1.5 to 2 times what they paid it for. And this was, for a long time, this was only the purview of decaying neighborhoods. Over the Rhine in the 1990s, the West End in the 2000s, Madisonville in 2010s. But now this is happening everywhere. That this is a widespread phenomenon where people are trying to gobble up all of the available land to be able to flip it and make money off of it, which is reducing the amount of stock that's available because many of these houses are not going back into the buyer's market, but they are being used, like I said, for short-term rentals. Some of it are used for executive living places when executives travel through or other people in a company come through the city that they have a place to live. And so it's driving up the cost of the housing that's available. And this is a phenomenon that's sweeping the country, and it is hitting right now Cincinnati like a sledgehammer. Yes, Sue Ellen, is it?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
As well, in the rental market, buildings are being bought by out of state or out of country, and then put under a management company to take care of it. And I live in East Price Hill. This is happening big time here. They're buying out landlords who have owned multiple buildings for 30 years. And they almost can't afford not to sell them. It's getting harder and harder to maintain them. and then they get turned into management, under management companies, because they spend time, they spend a little money to, upgrade them and make them look good, and then they put them on, a lot of them go into Section 8 so that ostensibly lower income people could rent them. But I mean, it's just devastating in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it is happening. I mean, we are seeing this happening all over the city. Evanston is experiencing this. Bond Hill is experiencing this. North Side is experiencing this. This is happening all throughout the Price Hills, Westwood, everywhere we are College Hill, Pleasant Ridge, everywhere we've knocked doors to talk to people about this. They have had their own stories and experiences of very similar things happening. And people are getting squeezed out. They're getting priced out of places to live. And then the last point I want to make on this is, Section 8 for a long time has been a golden ticket for people who can't afford market rent. But at least 4 organizations of people we've talked to about this have told us that their list of people who have Section 8 vouchers who can't find places is growing by the dozens. That people just aren't taking Section 8 anymore because it's more profitable for them to be able to renovate and charge market rent than it is to take Section 8 vouchers. And so literally one of my friends who works at the YWCA says, has been saying to me, we've got to ask the question, are we going to get into the affordable housing development process because we can't find it? We have clients who can't find the places to live, and we're afraid if we don't start building it, then we're going to end up with that this is going to be the ongoing reality for our clients. So I am here because we have a solution, and our solution is to restore our city's earned income tax from 1.8% to what it was in 2020, 2.1%, and use that money to go into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which will generate, our estimates are between $40 and $50 million annually to be able to go for affordable housing. And so this will create an ongoing revenue stream. You see here on the bottom of the screen, the current earnings tax rates for the other major cities in Ohio and comparable cities in the area. And Cincinnati has the lowest at 1.8%. We are clearly the lowest. And when we win in November and we restore the earnings tax to 2.1%, it will still be the lowest in the state of Ohio and in any any city in the region. That we are not putting Cincinnati at a competitive disadvantage. We will still have the lowest earned income tax rate and be able to have money that goes towards affordable housing. And we were able to do this without touching any of the city's existing budget. We don't have to divert money from firefighters or from rec centers or anything that the city is currently spending their money on. We don't have to divert the money to be able to do this, but this creates a new ongoing pot of money to be able to tackle one of the biggest problems that's facing our city.
Does your initiative address who would manage the funds?
It absolutely does. I can skip down to that. So there's both equity and accountability in this. So what we have done is we have said that our government has a responsibility for administering what happens with city money, and that responsibility ought to rest with our government, with our elected officials. And so the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is under the control of the city. David Mann, I think it's in 2017, created and pushed the legislation to make this happen. And so this is under the city's control. This city council has chosen to place this fund and other funds that it has raised for affordable and middle class housing, for government subsidized housing projects. It is chosen to put that money with the Cincinnati Development Fund. And so this would just go into that fund that's under the city's control, that's currently being managed by the Cincinnati Development Fund. And so there have been some false stories that there's a separate group of people who administer this fund that are not elected, that aren't accountable to the voters, and that's just absolutely not true. What there is there is an advisory board who is responsible for looking at the numbers and looking at where the city is investing its money. And I sit on a similar advisory board that the city has right now. They have tons of these advisory boards, and I have no ability on that advisory board to tell the city what to do. I can only make recommendations, and then the city is responsible for taking those recommendations and making decisions based on it. And the same thing would be set up with this, with the clear exception that the people on that advisory board are not just that there are some restrictions on people who have to be there. So there has to be people on the board who have been homeless and knows what it means to be homeless. People on the board who have worked with people who have experienced homelessness and know what that process is like. People on the board who do development for affordable housing and know what it's like to go through that process. That way, the people who are advising the city, at least a good number of the people who are advising the city, have experience in this, and it's not just business people, bankers, and ex-politicians on the board trying to talk about affordable housing. Yes, is it Chot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I was just at a candidate meet and greet on the west side for city council. And like 6 of the candidates were there. I didn't talk to all of them, but not one candidate I talked to supports this. I mean,
Yes,
they understand the issue, but they don't think this is a way to go about this.
Yeah.
I think I was also told that the Democratic Party does not endorse this. Is that true?
Yeah, the Democratic Party voted yesterday not to endorse it, which I'm a little bit sore about because they did not invite us to present to them. And so we did not have a chance to make the case. And not only did they not invite us, but they seem to have deliberately not reached out to anybody who is supporting us. The precinct delegates who are supposed to be at the meeting to vote, the people who are supporting us, somehow were mysteriously left off of the invitation and the distribution of the agenda for that meeting. And so we're a little bit sore, not about the fact that it wasn't endorsed, but about the way in which it wasn't endorsed. That just doesn't sit well with us. So,
Brewster had a question. Did you
hey,
want to?
Brewster.
How you doing, buddy? It's
Good.
great.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
I know. It's great to see you. Thanks for your passion. It's powerful.
Absolutely.
I was just curious about did the AFL-CIO endorse?
No, the AFL-CIO has not endorsed. They voted to remain neutral on this. The teachers union has endorsed. And the Worker Center has endorsed. And those are the two people in the labor camp who have. But the AFL-CIO has elected to sit this one out.
How about the NAA?
The NAACP voted. Today is Tuesday. They voted last Thursday to endorse us.
Okay, good. Are there other organizations that also endorse that you could share with us?
Absolutely. We have. Let me see if it's on this spreadsheet. Let me just exit out. We have 29 organizations as of now who have endorsed us. Yep, here we go. These are the early adopters. So the Greater Cincinnati Homeless Coalition, Peasley, Community Change, Over the Rhine Community Housing, the Women's City Club, Ignite Peace, the Homeless Clearinghouse, Caracol, Pro Seniors, Mark, DSA, the Better Bus Coalition, KUFA, the Working Families Party, the ACLU of Ohio, as I said, the Federation of Teachers, and then a couple of religious organizations as well have endorsed us. Since then, the Amos Project has endorsed us. Like I said, the NAACP has endorsed us. CARE Ohio has endorsed us. And I know there are 2 or 3 other organizations who have that I'm not thinking of at the current moment. But yeah, we've gotten a good. We are pleased with the number of organizations who have endorsed us and who are in that process. I know we've got at least 2 other endorsements that are just waiting for the meeting. And so we'll be announcing those as soon as they happen, but we have 2 or 3 others that are coming for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This list is in one of the links on our newsletter as well. If you check those out. Sue Ellen?
Well, I was gonna wait until you went through more of it, but
jump in.
We're skipping around a lot. I have been following what the Homeless Coalition is doing. Are they directly coordinated with you? Is your plan what they are working with now?
So it is yes, and is what I will say. And so the Greater Cincinnati Homeless Coalition have been they've really been the heartbeat of this. When I'm sure you all paid attention to issue 3 and what happened with issue 3. And with issue 3, even the Cincinnati Enquirer, which voted not to endorse it, said that what the thing that issue 3 did was expose the level of crisis of affordable housing. And this was before the crisis has gotten this bad. the um, um, the and so what a lot of people would have done after issue 3 is just kind of like, you know, lick their wounds, go back in the corner and say, you know, this isn't what people want now. And so, you know, figure out other ways to try to get it done. What Josh Spring did, which I thought was tremendous leadership, was he went to the people who he felt should have supported and didn't, and came out against it. And he said, why did you come out against it? What could we do to make this better? And so spent 18 months in conversations with those individuals, stripping it down, fixing it, trying to figure out what were the challenges and the problems with it, and how to make it a structurally sound solution. And that's what issue 24 is. It's the product of all of that work. And so I think one of the reasons why there haven't been as much opposition to it as we saw in issue 3, for instance, the AFL-CIO has not come out against it. I think one of the reasons is a lot of their leadership had a heavy hand in shaping what this is. That their input was taken to heart in creating this. And even some of the city council people who are opposed to this, if you ask them and they would be honest about it, they were in those meetings over the 18 months, and I was in the meetings with them, and they gave their ideas and input to creating this. And so it is the work that the Homeless Coalition has been driving, but this really is the breadth of wisdom from people in many sectors of leadership around the issue of affordable housing, so that it could be built in a way that provides the maximum benefit, but does not have spiraling side effects, that allows the city to be the city, and allows the government to do its job, and while providing opportunities for people to have housing and to exercise increasing democratic participation.
So you don't see this as adverse to the work that, for example, Councilman Harris is touting and trying to make happen. You feel like it's this and?
No. Yes. So
yeah, because that's
aside,
what I'm a little concerned about, is that,
yeah,
is this, you know, butting heads with what they're trying to do?
It isn't.
Okay.
Which is it isn't butting heads with what they are trying to do. It actually would add fuel to the fire that they are trying to build. As I was sitting, I'm on the committee, I'm on the mayor's housing advisory committee, and I was sitting in the meeting with Cincinnati Development Fund as they were reporting on what they were able to do. And when they said what we need, they said, it was very clear. I wrote this in my notes, and I was sitting next to Councilmember Harris, and I wrote this in my notes as the representative from the Cincinnati Development Fund said it. He said, the cities who have more mature versions of what we are trying to do in our housing policy, the cities who are far ahead of us on this, have a renewable revenue source that is pouring money into it, that allows development to be able to not just happen, but people to be able to plan for the development of affordable housing, because they can count on the money being there. And so people can begin to think, you know, development doesn't happen in a span of a year. people are thinking about it and planning for it. And if it's hard to plan for affordable housing, or even affordable housing to be part of a mixed development project, if you're not sure if the money's going to be there. And so this allows the money to be there so that we can have more affordable housing. Developers can know that this money is available and can have access to it. And so this is what the city needs. Now, if you ask me why the council members who ran on affordable housing are saying they don't want this, I believe it's because they feel like this puts them in a little too tight of a box than what they want to do. And what they want to do is be able to build as many units as possible without a clear analysis on the affordability of those units. And so for them, if we build 100 units, it's better, even if only 15 of them are affordable at the levels we believe are affordable. That's a better good of the city, for the city, than if we build 75 units and 50 of them are affordable at what we are trying to, where we are trying to fund. And I understand that math. I do. I understand why they think that. I just don't think that's the right calculation.
Well,
I don't
it's
think-
also because
Hmm.
they have to consider how much tax money is going to come in. Property tax money is going to be collected for the various units. And they're
Yeah.
not going to get as much from the lower cost units.
Yeah.
So, I feel like they're trying to balance something different, but I'm happy to hear you say that they have had input into this as it was being
Yes.
built, and that maybe they'll figure out a way to work with it.
Yeah. And the mayor and I are we are friends. And we had a conversation about this. He is absolutely not in support of this. And I don't want to even insinuate that he's in support of this. But we had a conversation because we are friends and are on opposite sides of this. And so we talked about the differences we approach this with. And one of the things that he said to me was, if this passes, if you win on this, I will make sure that we use all of the money that is generated through this for the betterment of the city, which says to me that while this might create some minor inconveniences to the way they want to do the work, this isn't going to stop them from doing the work. They will be able to do the work with this, and we think they will do the work better. That this provides the appropriate guardrails to be able to do the work better, not because we don't trust them. I think this is one of the better administrations and councils that I've seen in a while. Like, from top to bottom, I think, they're really good people who want to do really good work, and most of them are really smart and creative, and they're all sincere. I mean, this is, but none of them are going to be in office forever. And somebody's going to take the mantle from the mayor, and there are going to be other city council members, and we may have people who have different designs on what the city should look like. And this issue 24 is not, it allows this money to not be at the whim or discretion of whoever is in the office in a given moment. But it sets guardrails that says that this has to go for affordable housing going forward, so that this tool is always available to help create a stronger, better, more equitable Cincinnati, regardless of who is leading the administration.
It would seem to me that a message right now would be, if you pass issue 24, you're really just giving city time to come up with something. If they're going to do it, you're telling them, hey, this will be on the ballot next year. Then this is just the first step. So if you can come up with something better, do it.
Absolutely. This has been our challenge to them, is beat us to it. Please, by all means, beat us to it. This is a crisis. And if you've got a better solution, beat us to it and let the voters choose that. Heck, we might do it. We might vote for it too if you've got something better. But if you don't have something better, let's have a solution that's meeting a tremendous crisis. I mean, I'm sure you all saw the articles about Cincinnati public schools saying the biggest challenge they're facing is homelessness among Cincinnati public school students. And I don't know how you can look at that and think that we have 2, 3, 4, 5 years to try to come up with solutions about homelessness. Like, we have an entire generation of public school students who will be left behind if we are waiting that long to come up with solutions, especially when we have one now, and one that will work, and one that will not do harm to the city.
Right. I should mention I'm not a city resident, so but I can see the logic of this. Yeah. Any other questions at the moment? Or did you want to talk a little bit about the two-part nature of this?
Yes. So I'll stop sharing. So Ohio state law says that only elected bodies can levy tax. And so as citizens, we cannot require one another to pay tax. But what we can do is require our elected officials to levy a tax. And so the two-part nature of this is to do exactly that. That this November, we are saying this is the direction that we want to move in the city. And so we are requiring our city council members to levy this 0.3% earnings tax increase that will go to affordable housing, into this affordable housing trust fund, Fund 439, that will be used in these ways for these purposes. And then next year, so then we do that in November, sometime in the next legislative session. City council then will levy the tax, and then next year we will vote to approve the tax that city council has levied at our behest.
Okay. And do they get to write the ballot language, or we know something about ballot language?
Yeah. They we get a chance to submit it. In fact, what we did with this process is we submitted the full text of the amendment, which you can go to our website, Cincinnati Housing for All, and .org, and you can see the full ballot language. We want to be like extraordinarily transparent with this. We don't want anything hidden, so that people can get a chance to see for themselves what's in it. And so we submitted it to the city with our signatures, and the law department reviewed it and summarized it. And we took a little bit of issue with their summary, but we thought it was not a misleading summary. And so we had a conversation with the city solicitor's office about it, and decided that in the interest of collaboration, that we would allow the ballot language to be submitted to the Board of Elections as they submitted it. And they agreed that if we wanted to challenge it with the Board of Elections and ask the Board of Elections to make the changes that we had talked about, they would not object to it because they thought our changes to the ballot language were fair. And so it was a extraordinarily collaborative process for that.
Actually, I was referencing next year's ballot language.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be a similar process. I'm hoping there won't be a significant change in the city solicitor's office, and that the same individuals who work so well with us this time will work well with us next time, and that we will have something that's not that is not intended to try to kill it. I have appreciated, one of the things that I've appreciated about at least my interactions with the city solicitor's office is they have really, this current city solicitor has acted, at least with us in this manner, non-politically. She has not been a political actor. She has tried to do what is right and fair, and by the book, and that's been extraordinarily helpful. I know that has not always been the case, and it's frustrating when the referee gets involved and does more than just call balls and strikes, and actually is, trying to tilt the scales one way or another. That's extraordinarily frustrating in a democratic process. And so, yeah.
Any other questions, Pastor Nelson, from Pastor Nelson? Pastor Nelson, any other points you wanted to make tonight? Or
yes,
you've already taken more time than we asked for.
It's okay. It's okay. I am passionate about this issue, and prepared to talk to anybody, anywhere, between now and November 7th, in order to help inform people to make what they feel is the right and the best choice. There are a couple of other things. If this issue, if this feels to you in similar ways that it feels to me that this is the right thing for us to do, for the city to take action on right now, if you believe that Cincinnati has the potential to do more progressive work than what we are currently doing, we would love for you to join in with us in this work. We have a group of people right now who are wrapping up, making phone calls and typing in data to help us to be able to expand our outreach. October 13th and 14th, we have our weekend of action, which you may be able to see this background behind me. We are going to, on the 13th, that Friday evening, we're going to have some food and celebration down at the Peasley Center. And so everybody's invited to come be a part of that. You can talk about the issue. We'll have people there prepared to talk about this if you'd like to engage in more dialogue about it. But we just want to help build our sense of community around this. And then the 14th, we're going to have a rally and go canvass, knock on doors, let our neighbors know why it is that we're supporting this. And that's going to be the 14th at noon. The information for that is on our website, as well as other volunteer opportunities. We would love for you to come and join us and be a part of volunteering with us to make this happen. We believe that we have an opportunity, a special opportunity right now to take bold, progressive action. And if you are reading the tea leaves, the political tea leaves of the nation in similar ways to what I am, then you know that bold, progressive action is exactly what the doctor is ordering for our nation right now. And why not have Cincinnati be one of the leaders in that way? We can do what a few other places are doing and be bold in our leadership in this. And so I hope you will join us in this process. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to share.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pastor. And we'll have that discussion, certainly.
Absolutely.
Great. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording. I was about to tell him he could certainly stay with his if he wanted, but the